so I'm going to stick with what I got, but I think it's going to work out. When I was listening, I went back and listened to the stream, and it was pretty good. You were a little bit quiet, so I pumped up your output volume, and we'll see how that goes. But I think it's good for tonight.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, you can always keep a look at your Streamlabs OBS and take a look at, the little bars that pop up, and just compare your two bars. Because really, we just have to be sort of roughly on the same wavelength. So as long as we're comparable, you can know that the viewers are going to be able to hear, both of us well enough.
Yeah, good point. So when I do that comparison, we're pretty much right the same. Okay, I think we're good.
Yeah. So.
So when you're dual streaming, do you monitor your channel or do you monitor Khadgar?
If I got Khadgar going, yeah, I'll watch them both. I mean, if there's something popping off in the other channels, I'll take a look. Sometimes you can just figure out by context. Haven't got it really sort of planned out in that way. Right now, I don't have to be watching Khadgar. I could just be looking at your channel, see what you're working on. So you're working on a necromancer type figure, right?
Yeah, that's my Lich.
Okay, cool. Pretty sweet, man.
Thank you,
I like
thank
that
you.
leg a lot. Sorry?
I was just saying thank you.
Yeah. I like the leg, especially the wrappings.
Yeah, the wrappings were the very last thing I drew because I couldn't decide what to do with the leg. So I actually stopped on day one, came back and went with this, and I was super happy with it. I'm like, okay, that's good.
I also like the belt and the sword. You got the proper sword, position and strap thing going. which is hard to do.
Yeah, I'll be honest. This is one of the best drawings I've ever done, so I was really happy with it.
Yeah, you should be, man. Also, the hat kind of.
Oh, hey, Gnome.
Kind of Sauron-esque.
Thank you very much.
Would you say?
I missed that last part. What'd you say?
Wait, the hat is sort of like Sauron-esque, right? Would you say?
Yeah, I definitely had that in mind. And then after I drew it, I found that like lots of liches have this crown. So it must be influenced by Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Gnome, I'm trying my first dual stream setup. You hear me okay though, right, Gnome?
Yeah, it looks great, man. I would say you could probably go a little wilder on the staff and the smoke and stuff. What do you think? Like, that's not done yet, or?
Yeah. This is still a work in progress, and I'm actually missing a layer or two. But yeah, there's going to be some more lighting. Let me turn them on, and then I'll show you.
Cool. Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That makes a big difference.
So right there, when I turn down the green light, that's what I've been posting on Instagram. So that's what I consider where I'm at so far.
Yeah. Okay. And then you're gonna put something similar probably on the other skull too, right?
Yep. I haven't done any. What would that be? Just backlighting, but the backlighting will be purple. And then tonight I'm going to add sort of a silhouette. Oh wait, hold on. I'm going to have to change my push to talk button because it was adding a bazillion dots in my chat window.
Yeah.
But I'm going to add a silhouette tonight, like a graveyard silhouette. And maybe a moon rising in the background and some silhouette undead hands rising out of the ground. So we'll see how that goes.
So yeah. Have you seen that tutorial that Big Nola has put up about like tombstone drawings or tombstone cemetery settings?
Yeah, I've got that saved somewhere.
Yeah, you should definitely try doing something like that. It'll make it look.
Hey Charlie, thanks for the follow, man.
It'll look good.
Cool. So Gnome, how are you doing, man? I haven't seen you in a while. A couple weeks anyway.
I like how you got the gray background and the shadow, but I definitely think if you get some background in here, it's gonna look great.
Yeah, the gray background is just sort of a working background. I'm gonna give you the tour like I gave everyone else if you want to watch. So I'll show you all the layers.
Okay.
Right. So that's my little gesture drawing.
Yeah.
You see the red?
Yes, now I do, yeah.
Okay. And then I do my roughs in blue. And this time I actually needed 2 layers of roughs, so I made it a little bit cleaner. And then I do a render layer. Just because I'm forcing myself to practice, I'm doing the render layer to do the pencils.
Okay.
And then I do a border layer, which serves the same purpose as the flats. It defines the areas that I'm going to fill in later.
Mm-hmm.
And then I add some inks. And then I use a combination of this gray layer with a hard light on top to add the color. So the hard light set to 60% so that it's not too saturated. Because I'll show you, this is what it looks like when it's 100%. So it gets pretty saturated.
Mm-hmm.
So I bring it down to 60.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then I start adding some shadows just to deepen that up. This will be my bounce light layer, but right now it only has skull coloring. My key light, and later I'll add some specular and effects and stuff like that. So complicated, but that's what I've got.
Yeah. No, it's coming out awesome, man. I love the first stage of the roughs. That was very exciting, like a very exciting drawing. And then I also really liked your pencils. Pencil layer was great too. Shading you do is nice. I like the volume that it brings to the drawing. Like you could consider, especially when you've got very clean pencils like that. Try setting, basically like try and treat it like one of those red line drawings. You know how traditional like Renaissance type drawing, you'd have the red line, and then sort of paint into that. Try that if you wanted to. That way you can preserve that nice pencil line that you've got.
Yeah. I should try that. I know that other artists have what I consider great success with coloring the pencils and kind of pumping it up, but every time I've tried it, I haven't been too happy with it yet. So gotta work on that.
Like that's what I did for the drawings on my DeviantArt. Those are all pencil sketches that I did a long time ago, and I can show you one. And then just colored it in. Now it's just a character, so it's not black. I guess there's a link on my.
Sorry, Noam, I'm not as attentive as I should be. Just trying to see what he's showing me. And there's a link if you know Khadgar. You ever do Khadgar if you want to watch folks do dual streaming? I can post the link here in a minute.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm putting that up on my stream so people can see it. Yeah, that looks awesome.
Thanks. I mean, you know, it's old, but the basic idea there was taking my pencils and bringing them into Photoshop, set up some like filters where you just kind of bump up the contrast and take it from there, you know.
Yeah, I like the cross hatching you've got going on. Every time I try to do some real cross hatching, it just looks like garbage. but this is good. It looks clean, helps the volumes. Yeah, it looks cool, man.
Yeah. Thanks. I mean, if I were doing it now, I'd probably do a little better on the cross hatching. But yeah, I mean, it was an idea. It worked really well for some of the things that I used to look at, and like, I think your pencils would work with it. Man. I don't know. Hey, Cross, how you doing, man? What you up to?
I'm reading your
Thanks, Charlie.
your
Time
chat
Records
now.
3. That's just the
hold on.
version number. Yeah.
So I'll do it step by step. So my background has
I haven't
always
updated
been
any
graphic
stuff in a
design.
while, but
Hey, let me mute him
thank
for
you.
a second.
Yeah, that was for one of those Make-A-Wish Foundation things. And the
Okay, so let me see here. So have you worked in various graphic design firms? Yeah, most of my career has been graphic design or managing a large graphic design department. Not in illustration, but always graphic design and other things, Photoshop, Illustrator, use some cool apps like that. Done any illustrating in my career? Nope. No, I've done some computer illustrations, but I've never been a quote illustrator doing this type of work. Nothing in fantasy, so this is my first time transitioning into that, and I expect it's going to take me a few years. It'd be nice if it'd be less than 2, but could be 2 to 5 years, who knows. And let's see what you got going. I would love to draw D&D stuff. That would be fantastic. That's like my dream job. Yeah, so it's going to be, I always call this my retirement career. So once I get all set up, and hopefully I get good enough that people care, then I'm just going to do this the rest of my career. That's my plan. That's my plan, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, that's what it was meant to do. The hero you can barely see him, but the hero is walking into the forest, facing the mountain, of course, being the ominous force. Thank you. Yeah, I do think the composition, functions anyway. And so the hero is going off to face the mountain alone while all his friends stay home. And the girl is the character's sweetheart, and he has one wish before facing the mountain.
So that's the link, so you can watch both.
He says she's a big fan of Elvis, and so he wishes Elvis would play her a song, her favorite song, I think, which was like Blue Velvet, as he goes off to face his fate. So, kind of heavy stuff for considering the context. Kind of makes me a little sad, I suppose. Speaking it aloud. Yeah.
Alright, I changed to voice activated, and so, we'll have to juggle a little bit if I'm talking to my folks and you're talking to your folks. Cool, this is fun.
Yeah. Keeps things lively. Like the color and texture. Thanks. Yeah, that was from kind of play around with it, I tried to get a lot of texture in with the brushes, especially with the mountain. It's I like the contrast between the very sharp shape of the mountain, which is why it's just like angular. It's kind of very Ivan Earl, and then the texture of the brush, taking that out. I kind of bring in the Ivan Earl every once in a while. I try and bring it in a little bit into White Ash too sometimes. I like his work a lot. You like it that much, huh? I mean, I'll make you a print, Charlie. I'll send it along to you. I'll send you the file, or I can make you a print and you can do with it what you will. like I said, the kid had a great story for it. So that, as I've always said, that helps.
So Gnome's asking me if I got into Terry Pratchett and the Discworld series of books. I personally have not. What about you, Connor? Have you read Terry Pratchett or Discworld?
No, I definitely heard of it, and people talked about it, but recommended it to me, but no, I haven't read it. Sci-fi, right?
Yeah, sounds like it.
Because normally I think Terry Pratchett is a fantasy writer.
Gnome says there's a lot of books, but very satirical take on the fantasy genre. He says fantasy sci-fi, yeah.
Yeah, I think he sort of jokes around a lot. He recently passed. Well, the oversized black and white marble DC print in France. We should grab them, yeah. And those Europeans, they're even beating us at our own game. Oh, is that so, Charlie? This one or the other? Good omen, huh? Yeah, you liked it? So you looking forward to the TV show? That's a proper book, right? Not one of these picture books where you got base artists coming along and illustrating these things. 1990, cool. It's gonna be a blast from the past. Good. I like that. Where's that come from? I mean, gutter would be the border between the panels. Oh, that's awesome, Ross. None of this color malarkey. That's good that they put the letter. There is some grayscale. Like, they left in some of the grayscales. Like, for instance, Batman in that picture has a grayscale applied to him. Looks fan-frickin-tastic. That's what I would want to read.
Yeah, no, Good Omens. I'll have to look into that one. So is Good Omens fantasy or is it science fiction?
Okay, so he puts in the grayscale somewhere. As a zipatone maybe or something. Woo! Good. Is it the size? I don't know what size it is. I don't know if my artwork is up to the standard of being printed at that size. And those are artist editions, so, you know, they're for, like, very accomplished artists. Yeah, those are sweet. Yeah, they're huge. Interesting looking at that Oliver Popiel's drawing there. He just flattens the arm like that. Changes the shape. Non-gutter artist, right? Exactly.
Monty Python meets fantasy. That's what Terry Pratchett's about. I would totally love to read that then. Yeah, I'm going to look that up.
Yeah, that's true, Cost. Very competitive market.
Hi, Bear Paul. How are you doing?
I guess competition's driving them to a higher quality product. Somehow they got us beat on capitalism too.
No, hell yeah, what? Uh-huh. Douglas Adams. See the guy that wrote Hitchhiker's Guide? Yep. Okay.
Yeah, what's there to understand, Cross? They're basically just a bunch of jerks. Forget about them. Hey, thank you, Odeku. Thanks, Odeku, for the follow. Welcome to the channel. What brings you to Switch Art? That's literally the second time it's sort of come up in a row. I thought they were mostly sort of done. Stinking up the joint.
Yeah, Bear Paw, I've been pretty lucky with this one. So the pencils I was very happy with. Inks went along pretty smoothly because the pencils were, pretty solid. And as you can see, I'm adding the background right now, just kind of playing around with just a silhouette only background. So yeah, having fun with it. And thanks. I try to make it look good, I really do.
Yeah, Cross. I don't know. I mean,
Superflex.
I don't think anyone's saying that they're of any category just because they're putting out those kinds of books. I think it's because of other actions.
I gotta figure out how to do a gradient in Clip Studio Paint. I've never done one.
Oh yeah.
First
Very
time for
simple. You
everything.
just sort of make a selection, break out the gradient tool, drop it in.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah, looks good, man.
I'm actually really happy with that. I'll put a glow on the moon. I think that might be okay right there. Effect layer.
Well, anyone with a good writer. Charlie. So where are you getting the texture, Planet Chaos? Is that coming from a paper thing? Like you got some paper behind it, or what?
Yeah, I created my own paper textures,
Okay.
and the way Clip Studio Paint does it, I'll show you turned off. Let me turn off everything else. So that's what the paper texture looks like when it shows up. I know there's a lag.
Yeah. Okay. And you tweak the layer settings?
Yeah, it's Clip Studio Paint is awesome because it's got a one button click and it automatically applies sort of like a bump map to the paper. And it's like better than any paper texture I've seen in Photoshop. It just sort of magically works. So it's pretty damn awesome. So I made I forget how many pixels it was, but it was a 600 DPI paper texture. It's like 3,000 pixels wide or whatever. And I went in Photoshop and made it tileable. And yeah, so when I apply it and turn it on, it just looks really good. So, and I like the extra texture to all the drawings and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I really like, in general, I really like, when I was doing all my own coloring and stuff, I would always add typically a ridiculously, unnecessarily large watercolor file to, like, give everything some texture. There's probably an easier way of going about that, about faking the texture, but it worked. It just made everything really big. Because at 8.5, you know, at 11 by 17, 11 by 17, the texture that covers the entire page that's also color, huge.
Yep, I hear you. Sorry, I was panicking for a second because I thought I mean, I clearly didn't delete my layers, but all my art was disappearing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you saw me, that happened to me the other night too.
Yeah. So now what am I gonna do? Oh, the mask layer. All right, now I'm back to normal. I think I'll save.
Yeah. Nothing like a good scare to reinstigate that.
Yeah, remind you.
Like, oh shit, I better save.
Hey man, don't swear on my channel.
My bad. Yeah. You run a clean channel?
I run, yeah, we're squeaky clean over here. No one ever cusses. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, if it is, let me know. I'm fine.
No, it's all good.
I can somehow manage not drop F-bombs all over the place. I don't think I do it that often, but you know, I am from Jersey, so
it
just
sneaks
sort of
out
happens.
sometimes, yeah.
It does.
There's what I'm looking for. Geez, I was really lost there for a minute. Oh, thank you, Gnome. Gnome says my Lich looks like it could be a comic book cover. That's an awesome compliment. Thank you very much. Yeah, hopefully someday I'll draw for Wizards of the Coast or something. I would love to do a fantasy comic book. I think the market's kind of hard on fantasy comic books, though. But that would be fun.
I think it is. Although it seems like I think everyone wants a fantasy comic, so I think there's two things. There's several factors into that. I think one is that, in general, I'm not sure, and we had a bit of this conversation going on over here. Is that the big, people think of American comic book, all they think about is superheroes. All they think about is, hulking dudes beating the crap out of each other.
Yeah.
There's like nothing. There's no like sports. In Japanese manga, there's sports. There's like boxing one. It's like schools. There's like everything.
Yeah.
And so people want this thing like fantasy, but then there's no market. They're not capturing the market really for it.
Yep.
So,
which surprises me because there's so many people that love fantasy.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, and I think there could be a lot more. I will say also, I think fantasy is pretty hard. Pretty hard, I think. Battle Chasers did well, yeah.
What was that?
Battle Chasers.
Yeah, I like Battle Chasers. Obviously, the art is fantastic. The story was pretty good and stuff. But my own personal thing is if I do fantasy, I don't want my fantasy guys to be superheroes.
Yeah.
And Battle Chasers was pretty much superheroes in fantasy clothing. So I don't know. I don't know if that's a good plan to have or not. But I loved Battle Chasers. And I don't think he ever finished it, did he?
In the video game he did, apparently. We were talking about this the other night.
Oh, okay.
As it happens. Yeah, so in the video game, if you want to know the story, I think it gets fleshed out.
Okay.
Yeah, there's plenty for everyone. Exactly, Charlie.
Does Pathfinder still make a comic book?
It did. I thought it looked like. Doesn't look. Oh, I'll refrain. I mean, I think it could look better. Considering.
See, so not to rag on them, but I thought the art was good. I thought the stories could be a little bit better, I guess. But I mean, if they challenged, and there's tons of people that play Pathfinder, how are we supposed to conquer the fantasy market? Now, you guys honestly have such a great story that your book is good even without the fantasy element because it's very interesting. So I think that's part of it. You just, you got to have a great story, maybe even a stronger than normal story to allow the fantasy element to survive.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like how I keep on saying this, that I think comedy is really a very good tool that is underused.
Yeah.
Because and especially let's say a comedy movie or a comedy comic, whatever. Like it's always got to function on a dramatic level. Like you can't have a comedy movie that like falls flat on the drama.
Yeah.
Then there's no stakes. There's no value. But the comedy just but it does make it fun. So in a similar way, I think for a fantasy book, it's also got to function on a dramatic level. You can't just have epic battles and wizards and lightning bolts and that stuff. People aren't going to care because it's not really the window dressing that really matters in the end. It's the drama. So I'd say probably people that are into fantasy, maybe they fall for the trap, and the trap is that they're not focusing on what makes it fundamentally an interesting story, and instead they focus on the window dressing.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, they turned those Pathfinder books out. Guy Davis, The Realm, 90s comic. Okay. I'd also say you could probably, like, in general, I'd like to see, like, comics can be sold in so many more ways than they are right now. Like, for instance, like, you want to go to where your customers are. So, where are our young customers? I mean, they're on Steam, I think. Or at least, not even just young customers, but a lot of different kinds of customers, age groups. I mean, there's no reason why they sell movies on Steam. They should probably sell comics on Steam.
I didn't know Steam. I thought Steam was only games. I've never been on it, but yeah, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you can sell software on Steam. You can sell, um, movies, things like that.
Yeah. So
They're
gnomes.
What's up?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I forgot what I was gonna say. So go ahead.
Sorry about that. I was saying, Gnome says one of the problems of fantasy is how you balance the magic, because it can be so incredibly powerful, or like how do you square it with your fighter barbarian type characters, you know? So I think what he's saying is the magic, you know, can power creep, and how do you keep it in track so that it's on par with your other characters, not overshadowing them? And if that's what you're saying, I totally agree with that, because magic can be the great MacGuffin.
Yeah. Well, that's why that's a trap that a lot of even fantasy novels fall into too. I think Brandon Sanderson. I remember him. I watched a YouTube video of him explaining how he went about managing magic in his world. I mean, but I think, for me, like, I think of magic as something that, a lot of video games make it, and D&D, I suppose, make it so that magic is sort of casually encountered in the world. When I think, I think it's a much better idea to sort of really only keep it to very, very, very special occasions, especially if you're talking about a more realistic setting. If you want to go for a really high fantasy setting and you go for something very superhero-like, maybe in its aesthetics, go for like a wizard, all that. But I mean, if you want to have a more grounded story, probably reserve. I mean, in Lord of the Rings, there's only a few magicians. What, 4? I don't know, 3, 2. So.
Yeah, and they just don't, and you don't see very much visible magic.
Right. They don't really do that much.
Yeah, I think that adds a lot of drama to the movie. And I love magic, but it's tough. I think it is tough to rein it in.
Yeah, I mean, it's very tempting as a writer or a comic artist. I mean, you want stimulating visuals, you want exciting moments. It's like, well, I can just throw magic into this thing. It can be awesome. It's like my instant win button. Well, I mean, if you keep on going to that instant win button, that dopamine fix isn't going to kick in the same way. Yeah, Humble Bundle would be good too. Yeah, I think, there's a lot of different ways that they can be marketed. Probably, companies are not pursuing as well as they could.
What is Humble Bundle?
Humble Bundle is a store that where you typically, the way it works is a bunch of games will be on some sort of sale, and you get like, let's say 5 games, 3 games, something like that. And on the net, you're saving money. Typically, they're offered at a very, very, very low, like relative to the standard that they're sold at, and then a portion of that goes to charities.
Okay.
And then I guess, I don't know, somehow they make money. I mean, when you're talking about a digital market, every single unit that you sell past a certain point is profit.
Yeah.
That's when it makes sense for a video game,
Yep.
And with digital comics, you have that same thing.
Yeah, the digital comics will have a longer shelf life for sure, almost forever.
Yeah,
They'll
as long as you
new.
hold the file.
Yep.
Theory could be, but most people, I think a lot of people lose their files. So. This World of Warcraft, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of video games are doing that. They're putting comics into their games. Fabio was working on a comic for a game as an intro. I mean, even if they're Overwatch comics, they're still comics. But yeah, I mean, Steam or like video game stores, like the PlayStation stores, or if maybe YouTube. Oh man, YouTube. If they can sell comics through YouTube, that'd be good. Because that's where people are there all the time. They're like on their devices. All the, yeah, cross. So besides the one you mentioned, Guy Davis, The Realm, what's another good fantasy comic? I like the Polish one. I can't remember right now. Warlock 9. Well, there's a new Realm by Image, and I guess it's a post-apocalyptic world. Yeah, I remember you talking about the Realm before. This does look sweet. By Caliber. Yeah, that looks good too. Warlock. Kind of looks like Banshee in this picture. Yeah, I mean that's another reason why I think there isn't that much sci-fi or fantasies, because they do, it does involve more research, and you've got to design costumes, you've got to design worlds, and when you got to do that, you're talking about a lot of R&D, when typically comics are made not with like any kind of R&D budget. Get to cruise eBay for them now? Yeah. Just, I guess they didn't sell well, or what? Yeah, you know, I've definitely heard people like ElfQuest. I haven't read it myself, so That's cool. It's a little bit too maybe cute for me, my taste. Yeah. So then, therefore, what's been the recent thing? Like, what's a good naughties fantasy comp? Definitely, growing up, I always wanted fantasy. But I could never find any really. My local comic book store is very small. It really just only stocked you comics, and there was always just like, you know, Spider-Man, Batman. Which, I mean, I bought a few issues of, but I wasn't like terribly enamored with. Yeah, not recent fantasy. And then when I went to this place called Time Warp in New Jersey, Caldwell, that place was cool because they had all kinds of different stuff. And so but then I got into the Warhammer. And that was all concept art, but that was fantasy concept art for the codexes. I bought those. You know, yeah, I was showing Cross Country. Have you ever heard of this comic called Rio by Roger Wildley? Or Wildley. Someone was showing me a European, or Mick was showing me a European artist that was really, really good on Instagram. Yeah, you know Rio? Rio's awesome, right? It's amazing, amazing stuff. Well, this person that Mick linked was also really, really good. Kind of a different genre, a little more in the Mobius Gerard category of Western. Yeah, the blueberry stuff is good. I got some of those on my shelf. Maybe with the whole Red Dead thing, they'll bring back Western, but who knows? Yeah, it's like Grimm, Brothers Grimm.
All right. I think I'm calling this one as done.
Alright, man. Oh, I like the little glow you put around things. Sweet. Yeah, it came out great, man.
Thank you very much. I love the silhouette stuff in the back. That just like was so easy to draw and it looked so cool.
Oh yeah. That's the sort of, I mean, generally silhouettes, not just the domain of Mignola, but I kind of think of that kind of shape there as very Mignola.
Yeah, he's a master of that stuff.
Oh yeah.
All right, now there's so many things I have to look at now. I'm going to take a quick break. I gotta go do a couple things. So I'll change my monitor. I'll mute my mics. So much to do. But I'll be right back.
Good.
Actually, if I just mute these two.
There's this novel called The Black Company. Something like that would be great, I think, for comics. It's got loads of action, very dark humor. I think what's the other one that's pretty famous? I think it's called Grim Fantasy. Oh, The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. Those could definitely work as comic. I also really liked Elric of Melnibone. I like the novels for The Witcher. He did a book of Bram Stoker's Dracula. Yeah, a lot of the fantasy novels that came out, especially in the 70s, they were all short stories, and then they would, if they were popular, because they were published via like anthologies or newspapers, and so, or a magazine. So then eventually, if there was enough demand for them and they kept on hiring that person, they would, that person could eventually take their stories and collect them, put them into a novel. So they weren't like one single story, from beginning to end. They were told. Yeah, I like P. Craig Russell. Find him a little bit. Yeah, it's good. Is it 240? Holy crap! Damn it! I did it again. All the chat is what keeps me up. Can't believe you're still up, Charlie. Have a good night. I didn't even realize what time it was at all. Get me to talk about fantasy comics. I could talk for hours, apparently. I mean, not straight through, but There comes the yawn. All right, well, I guess I'll raid Planet Chaos while he's gone. That way he'll never know. So, all right, guys. Thank you very much for hanging out. Very much appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Back on tomorrow. Hopefully, finish up some of these goddamn pages. Pagas. No, not at all, Cross. It's not your fault. Thank you for hanging out, man. It's always a pleasure chatting with you. Good night, Bear Paw Gamer. All right. Catch you guys later. Right. Yep. Yeah, you caught me. Yeah, I realized it's 240 here. Yeah, that's what I was telling everybody. Well, that really is a nice piece, Planet. You should be very happy with it. Yeah. You got Cross Contour giving you that follow. Alright, Planet. I'm gonna hop off and head to bed. Have a good night, man. Yep, see you tomorrow. Have a good stream. Yes, I agree. At some point, we should actually try and plan. I mean, we could, if everyone was just happened to be on the Discord at the same time, we could actually just plan things out as well. But absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm happy to do that too. Yeah. All right, man. Good night.
It would really help if I turned my mic on. Hello, everyone. My mic was off. I'm so sorry about that. Too many little panels that I'm adjusting here and juggling with. But welcome from Connor's channel. I'm drawing a Lich here. I like to draw D&D monsters and stuff. I've actually just started doing this as like my main focus a couple weeks ago, but this is what I like to do. So I actually just finished this one up. I'm going to be starting something new here in just a few minutes. I've got to move something over from my camera. Give me just a sec. next guy I'm going to be drawing, let me check my notes here somewhere. So the next guy really is kind of another Lich, but the Nameless King from the Dark Souls game. That's going to be my next project. So let's see if you can see that. So that's the rough sketch I did. You know what? I can make it. Let me change my scene here. That can show up a little bit better. Just face cam. Whoa! So that's going to be my next one that I get started tonight. And I was only just sketching out the pose, obviously, a little bit of details, but I'm going to scan this in, make it my blue layer, and just do the pencils on top of that, then my inks and all that good stuff. All right. I'm just taking a picture of the sketch with my smartphone. Gonna copy it over to the computer. So, all right. pretty close enough. No, that's not gonna work. Whatever. Okay, what am I missing? That. Alright, we're in business. Yeah, he's got a lot more detail even than the last Lich that I drew. And the 3D images I was looking at, you know, there's lots of tiny details, so I hope that I can capture the feel of it. So I want to lighten that. I might scan in the drawing. There's too much extra blue. It's a little bit light there. Oh, I know I'm zoomed in too much. Yeah, so this is from Dark Souls 3, I think this guy is. I've never played the game, but Regulus had requested this picture. So Oh, you know what? I'm going to be right back. I'm going to turn the stream off because I wanted it to actually end with that last drawing and then turn it right back on so that this one has a fresh beginning. So I'll be right back. Just on and off.